Hello everyone, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today? Wherever you are in the world when you're watching, a huge shout out to you. Firstly, thank you all for your very, very positive comments and generally giving me that feeling of support and I guess loyalty in a way. So thank you very much for that. Today I wanted to look at climate change. I've been asked by viewers, we hear the words, they do the talk, but are they actually going to do the walk? On the 1st of November, of course, we have a United Nations Climate Change Summit coming up in Glasgow in Scotland. We've recently had Greta Thunberg, the teenage climate change activist, coming out and saying, we always hear the talk. In fact, she gave a very spirited address where she spoke of climate change, blah, 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 blah. So that's probably what I will title this video, Climate Change Action, blah, 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 question mark. Because, we've heard a lot of this before, that governments change, a new agenda, a new policy agenda comes through that opens up logging or oil drilling in pristine national, I guess, assets, parks, I guess, or areas that are listed as pristine and shouldn't be drilled or shouldn't be destroyed in any way. And of course, we get governments. We saw a lot of that in the US over the last four years. And of course, now we have the current US president leading the charge, literally, on climate change, joined by Boris Johnson in the UK. Always have to smile because he's got some real problems on his hand with supply chain shortages as a direct result of Brexit, which all should have been worked out well and truly before Brexit. But anyway, he is leading the charge. Climate scientists have said that by 2050, parts of England will actually be underwater with rising sea levels. So in Australia, of course, our Prime Minister hasn't even committed to going to Glasgow yet. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Because they haven't reached a decision within their party. They've got some far-right elements which refuse to commit to net zero by 2050. So he can't go to Glasgow if he can't get agreement within his government that there will be net zero emissions by 2050. But getting back to where I want to start, I was watching an astrologer who brought up the chart of the Melbourne earthquake, remember, on the 22nd of September. This was followed by an earthquake in Greece of a similar magnitude on I think it was the 27th of September, early morning times, and around about 5.86 on the Richter scale. I want to look at those charts and then I want to just present something for you. And then I want to ask the real questions. Is it blah, blah, blah? Or are we actually going to see some action on climate change management? Or is it, are we just running out of time? Is it just going to be more of the same? And what might likely to be coming up? We've had a series of earthquakes in Haiti and also, as I said, Melbourne and Greece. What are we brewing? What is actually likely perhaps to come? Are we looking at another earthquake somewhere, perhaps a stronger one? But anyway, let's get started. I just want to pull these charts up because I think they're really quite interesting. Let's go to the Melbourne chart to begin with. So Melbourne, of course, had an earthquake on the 22nd of September at, let me see, was it around about 9:15, 9:17 a.m. in the morning. And of course, it coincided with those massive protests that you saw, people breaking lockdown and of course, marching in the streets. They actually did become violent. I'm all for protests. That's a democratic right. Not for violence, not for breaking lockdowns, not for causing our frontline health staff more trauma, more stress after nearly 2 years of fighting COVID. We are so close to the finish line with vaccination rates rising. We're literally rolling our sleeves up for our communities. And there was a vocal minority who took to the streets without masks, some waving Trump flags. It was a disparate group, as we've seen across the world, of those libertarians uniting with some kind of neo-fascist type elements, uniting with those people who are actually hurting because of lockdowns, protesting without masks, not all, but some, as you'll see from the photos, and of course waving these Trumpian flags. So we've got a lot going on, suffice to say, but at the time of those protests, there was an earthquake in Melbourne. And if we look at this chart, there's just a couple of things that jump out. We've got this Mars conjunct the Sun in Virgo, Mars in Libra, justice. There is a real opposition here to Neptune in Pisces. Some have thought that this has been the virus signature. Others are now saying that Pluto, other astrologers, Pluto, the underworld, an ending where we've got to really reassess. Pluto, of course, rules the 8th house of death and transformation, with this this square here to Eris, which is the goddess of discord. Some say the divine feminine energy, which is really angry, is that Gaia. Then we go to Uranus, the planet of radical change, events that can't be predicted, an earthquake perhaps in Taurus, the Earth sign, with a opposition to Venus, again another I guess a planet that's associated with Gaia energy. In Scorpio, deaths and endings, rebirths, having to transform. So we see what I see when I look at this, and of course Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries. What are we trying to heal here? We've got an opposition to the Sun in Virgo. The male, and of course we've got conjunct with the Moon, the shadow work, the shadow area of things, overflowing emotions. So it's like we're having an identity crisis right now, but we are not separate from this earth. Our energy, we are earth beings. We are born from this earth and we die and return to the earth as dust. Of course, our soul goes on, but that's another story. What is the earth doing? I'm just going to pose that question at this time where this tremendous anger, this tremendous confusion. And now we're seeing like an earthquake, an event that erupts, that releases pent-up energy. So I go to Mercury in Libra. All of this is in the 12th house here in Australia, in this Australian chart anyway, bringing something to a close. We're getting very close to opening up after a sustained period of lockdown, after a sustained period of our freedoms being taken away. However, why did most of us lock down? We did it because this is a way of saving lives. If you go to my Facebook page, you will see a comparison with Florida. So Florida is about the same population as Australia. The Florida government presented very few guardrails. Australia had very draconian lockdowns. Could be argued whether all of what they did was necessary, but Again, I'll leave that open to you. The lockdowns in the main worked. There was around 1,200 deaths in Australia during the same time period that we dealt with Delta, as compared to about 54,000 in Florida. So those nearly 50,000, over 50,000 lives that we saved, were they worth it? Were the lockdowns worth it? Well, I say yes. I say yes, they were. To save 50,000 lives, Australian lives, through lockdowns. We haven't been locked down all the time over 2 years. Melbourne, of course, has had the most sustained, the longest lockdown of anywhere in the world. That's where the earthquake was. So my question, I guess, that I'm posing is the earth changes reflecting our times, our divisions, our angers, our confusions? What is the earth trying to teach us here? And that's even before I get to climate change. The virus is a product of the earth. It's something that was produced within the earth in bats, and of course it has literally brought us to our knees. So I don't think it's a question of if we learn the lessons or when we learn the lessons. I think that the earth will bring us to the table one way or another. Mercury in Libra, and we see this square here to Pluto, the underworld, the earth, the deep chasms of the earth, under the ground. Mercury here, justice, balance, bringing things back into balance, communication, energy. So I can make a leap. I can say that this chart at the time of the Melbourne protests, coinciding with the Melbourne earthquake, has some signatures that reflect the current conditions that we're living within. If I go to Greece, the Greece chart, just bear with me while I find this Greece chart, you'll see similar energies, although justice and balance is there. Now, those of you who may not know, Greece has, I think, if not the biggest or second biggest ranked debt to gross domestic product. It had a debt crisis in 2020, which isn't resolved in 2021. And yet they are going and purchasing war machines, like Australia is too. So we have the similar patterns here. But of course, the Mars and the Sun are falling within Libra, the planet of balance, of justice. What is it that Greece needs to address to bring back balance? And of course, Greece was the home historically of our democracies. So these are big questions for us all. I just want to show you the Melbourne protests and just see if you get any kind of sense of similarities here. So we've got the marches in Melbourne, in Australia, Trump all the way, Trump dressed as Rambo with the big guns. You can see how the disparate elements of society came together, broke the lockdown. Unfortunately, a week post those protests, 10 days post those protests, there were several positive cases that were marching that day. And of course, this will put further strain on our frontline health staff. And of course, loved ones get COVID and can run the risk of passing it on to their loved ones. So anger and resentment, that kind of fury that erupts, rightly or wrongly, rarely does any good. They ended up at the Shrine of Remembrance, which is a veterans memorial, and there was some pretty lewd and horrible things desecrating that shrine. So I just want to take a look at, while all this is going on, of course, this was Australia in 2020, the fires, December 2019, 2020, January 2020, the fires. I don't need to say too much about that, directly attributed to climate change. In Greece, we get a similar sort of pattern here, devastating fires in Greece this year, and experts sounding the alarm over our climate future. Now, you will all know about the deal, the nuclear submarine deal that that Australia did with Britain and the UK and America. Of course, France is still very upset, hasn't returned their ambassador to Australia and not likely to for some time. Still, our focus as we move in Australia, as we move into this our summer season, not so much on climate change. Our Prime Minister hasn't even decided that he would go to the UN Climate Summit. But of course, strategically, our focus is on warships. And in Greece, they have announced that they have just done a deal with none other than the French for a multi-billion-dollar euro defence deal. Europeans are ramping up their defensive systems. There is some talk about Europe actually needing or wanting to move into I'll just stop that share, move into getting a defence force besides NATO of its own so that it can be strategically prepared for any offensive that might come its way. So the world is really in some kind of arms race, jockeying for strategic dominance and influence. All the while, we're having these earthquakes throughout the world, and of course, the terrible floods, and leaders meeting in at the UN Climate Change Summit in November. Greta Thunberg, is it all blah, blah, blah? So let's look by the tarot at that question. So let's draw some overarching messages from the Earth Energy Oracle. I thought it was appropriate to look at that oracle. Some overarching, what have you got to say, please? Everything's connected. The energy of spirit connected to the energy of Gaia, connected to the energy of us, connected to the energy of everything around us. What messages do you have for us, please? So we have innocence, childhood. Yeah, that is a beautiful card, the light coming through, returning to innocence, starting something anew. The Fool in the tarot, of course, starts the journey with tremendous idealism. Idealism based on action, idealism based on science. We're moving into, some would say, the age of Aquarius, innocence, childhood. What have we learned? What have we let, I guess, destroy, burn away that innocence? The wolf instinct, survival. Some astrologers are saying the Pluto square to Eris is about survival of the fittest, Eris being the goddess of discord, disruption, hard lessons. If the warnings aren't heeded, survival, instinct, innocence and instinct. Perspective, the Milky Way perspective, changing our perspective, gaining a perspective. We worry about the politics. We worry about whether or not our party is going to win the next election. We worry about, we fear. But perspective, kicking that up to what is actually going on at the moment with our earth, with our climate. Are our worries small compared to what might occur if we don't take that action. Breach, something coming to the surface. This kind of resonates with what happens in an earthquake and indeed a tsunami, things coming to the surface. And we've got Synergy, the green man, moving forward, Gaia's instinct, Gaia's innocence, Gaia's perspective, Gaia's actions. If we're not going to take it, who do we think we are? Stillness, the lake. Stillness in the lake. That's the kind of energy that we need to move toward, but everything is telling me that's not the energy that we are in or cultivating. Shape-shifting, changes in our earth, changes in our environment. New moon, promise, thank goodness, thank goodness. New moon and promise, and we've got summer solstice radiance, compassion. I'm not someone that throws out hope. We do have our leaders speaking. We do have those countries that know that action must occur, leading or trying to lead, trying to bring people together. So that's the question. Is it all blah, blah, blah? Will we actually see action on climate change? Will we actually see action on climate change? I'm getting the sword, a sword, some kind of truth coming forward. Some kind of lesson. So we've got the Five of Wands, of course. I'm using my Golden Tarot, obstacles, challenges. This is a political card. Too much division. We can't even agree on whether or not to wear a mask. How the hell are we going to agree on anything else? I'm getting a bit angry. I'm getting a bit like Greta Thunberg. Of course, the devil, toxicity. Look at this. Look. This is where our politics have brought us. The World card is the foundation of the reading, endings and beginnings. Endings and beginnings. I'm going to ask, will it be too late? But I'll leave that for the next pull. The Moon card in the past, the upsurge in emotions, doing the shadow work. Where was the moon? I think in one of those earthquake signs, sitting right next to Eris, the feminine, Gaia, the female energy of the passivity of the earth. However, Eris is not passive. Eris in Aries, not passive at all. The great destroyer in some ways. What is the potential loss? So no, I think there might have been one life lost in the Greek earthquake, none in the Melbourne. Certainly lives lost in Haiti. And of course you had those tremendously upsetting scenes of Haiti asylum seekers being herded up with horses, and which of course the US president has apologized for, and that will no longer occur. But those that are impacted, there has been tremendous loss, one way or another, regret, disappointment. We should have. That's the potential. It's not the actual. Now we've got the Eight of Pentacles. I'm pleased to see that. That's talking about a lot of work being needed whether that's on renewable energy policies, the actual doing. There has been a tremendous growth in solar power. A tremendous amount of Australians have put solar panels on their roofs. And of course, you have great innovation with electric cars coming out of the US. There has been, it's not all doom and gloom, there has been some real work being done by those that are very, very skilled. Innovation, that's where we're moving to, innovation. Judgment call in the here and now. Wake up. Wake up. It is inevitable if you don't. In some ways, we've already passed that inevitability. I don't see Complete destruction, no, I don't. But I do see an inevitability about action being taken because choice will be removed. Okay, the sun card, the warming up, radiance. We had the sun card there as well, fire energy. More fires, unfortunately, coming as our earth warms. The Seven of Wands, defending oneself, hopes and fears, defending oneself, standing the ground. They can't reach consensus on net emissions, zero emissions by 2050. Rather, the economies which have been buffeted, which have been really broken down by COVID. The emphasis is on protecting the economies, protecting our way of life. Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving help. So, is it blah, blah, blah? That's our outcome card, the Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving help. To me, that says that those, along with the Five of Cups, those that are going to be affected by climate change, here's our sword, a Page of Swords, a truth needing to be faced, are going to need help. We're going to have to plough money into climate change or climate change management. There's because each natural disaster costs, whether it's a hurricane, a flood, a fire. That is the painful truth that the politicians are the penny's yet to drop. That until they do, we've got this Ten of Wands. So it's not going to be easy. You can see all of that. We've got the Lovers, relationships coming together at the base of the pack, reflecting upon that. How do we get consensus? How do we heal these divisions? We've got Six of Swords, relocation, a lot of populations relocating, having to move on, move to other locations. I want to draw an overarching. So I just want to look at, is it going to be too late? I'll use the Shaman's Dream Oracle. Part of action starts with dreams, starts with idealism, starts with dreaming up technologies that move us away from fossil fuels toward renewables, toward making renewables affordable. The debt. This is going to be a big discussion at the UN Climate Change Forum, is around the money that natural disasters are creating, the debt. We need to put it in those really stark terms. That's the sword that I saw, the truth. And it's a sharp sword as well. COVID alone, look at the money that COVID alone, the virus, the Earth's virus, starting in the most populated area in the world, spread by our rapid travel, that we're really keen to get back to. We're certainly being presented with the truth. It's whether or not we take it. But I feel that we'll get to a point where there's no other choice. So is it too late? Is it too late? And that's really the tipping point. That's when things start to change, when there is no other pathway, when there is no choice. There's only one road. There's only one road, and there's a sword that lays a long way along that road. That's what I saw, that there's only one road. The other roads are in darkness. So show me, is it too late? Caterpillar opportunity, no, it's not. It's not too late. It's not blah, blah, blah. There's going to be money put into technology, and that's going to create opportunity. Heart, home, compassion. We human beings, there's beautiful colours. we human beings are capable of great compassion. While many will say that Australia's lockdown was not fair, not right, not justifiable, the truth is that a lot of Australians rolled their sleeves up, not just for themselves, but for their loved ones and others around them too. I know that there are people in my family that did that to protect me and my partner, because we're in the vulnerable categories. We've both all been double vaxxed. We're capable of great sacrifice, great compassion, great empathy. There's science, technology coming, and that is going to be where we'll be putting our focus. The deep, quiet meditation and stillness. We had the lake, the stillness come up in the overarching cards. What happens after an earthquake, after the aftershocks have all gone? There's a stillness. If you look at a lake, still water, a quiet. And within that quiet, we're able to bring on that hermit energy, that Virgo energy, the sun in Virgo, at the time of the earthquakes, reflection, deep reflection and introspection. And winter's dream, a gestation period. I'm not going to say this all is lost. Closing a door, completion. That was at the foundation of the reading. After an ending comes a new beginning. Repairing the veil, forgiveness. It's interesting. The emotion I got around this was guilt. This is the emotion of the Five of Cups as well. Forgiveness. Who are we forgiving? Repairing the veil. Are we forgiving ourselves for our inaction? Are we forgiving ourselves because we put our own needs ahead of the earth? I mean, we have to bring that down to an individual level. You know, those rampant consumerism. China became mighty and powerful because it had cheap labour and the factories went offshore. That's the truth. We lost our manufacturing capabilities. Why? Because enough wasn't enough. Okay, so that's what I see, what I feel. I was drawn to do this reading today. And I think that's kind of the bigger perspective that we all need to be looking at and supporting our leaders who are putting themselves out there in relation to climate change action and management. Supporting them, getting behind them. Everything else is minuscule in comparison. So will there be more climate change events? Yes. Will there be more natural disasters? Yes. And there will come a time when something will occur that is so powerful that the earth will give us one final lesson. And from that day, we will start to put our will into action. And that's when there will be opportunity to do things differently. So thank you for tuning in. I'll be back again with another reading soon. Thank you.